In the middle of the parade ground, his fist connected with my face, and the sharp sound of my sergeant major's boots followed immediately after. I thought I'd left Willow Bend behind forever. Turns out the sentence for the man who stole from my family was just waiting for this exact moment. He thought I'd just take it like I always had. I responded with what he never saw coming: paperwork, witnesses, and military law. My name is Morgan Hale, and I hadn't set foot in Willow Bend, Colorado, for 7 years until that May morning when I drove my rental car past the weathered town limits sign. The Advanced Leadership Course graduation at Fort Valor was in 3 days, and against every instinct screaming in my gut, I'd finally answered my mother's calls. The town hadn't changed: same cracked sidewalks, same faded storefronts, same suffocating weight pressing down on my chest as I turned onto Maple Street. Our house, Mom's house now, I corrected myself, sat at the end of the cul-de-sac like a wounded animal. The paint was peeling worse than I remembered, and Kurt's truck occupied the driveway like a tumor. I parked at the curb and sat there, engine running, studying the place. Through the kitchen window, I could see Mom moving around, her shoulders hunched in that defensive posture I knew too well. She must have heard the car because she appeared at the front door before I could decide whether to drive away. "Morgan, sweetheart, you came." Linda Denby looked older, grayer, smaller. The bruise under her left eye was expertly concealed with makeup, but 29 years as her daughter had taught me where to look. "Mom." I killed the engine and grabbed my duffel. My dress blues hung in a garment bag, pressed, perfect, ready for the ceremony. Everything I'd become since leaving this place condensed into that uniform. She hugged me at the door, and I smelled cigarettes and that same vanilla lotion she'd worn since I was 5. Over her shoulder, I saw him, Kurt Denby, my stepfather for the past 15 years, sprawled in Dad's old recliner with a beer at 10:30 in the morning. "Look who decided to grace us with her presence," he slurred, not bothering to stand. "The soldier girl returns." I didn't respond. I'd learned long ago that silence was armor with Kurt. But something was different this time. Papers spread across the coffee table, Mom's signature visible even from the doorway. Financial documents. My radar, honed by years of military precision, started pinging. "I'll put my stuff in my old room," I said, moving past Mom. "Oh, honey, that's Kurt's office now. I made up the couch for you." Of course it was. I dropped my bag by the sofa and noticed more papers on the kitchen counter. Loan documents from Northline Credit Union. Mom's name. But something else too, my name. Barely visible under a stack of bills. That night, after Kurt had passed out and Mom had retreated to their bedroom, I photographed every document I could find. The home equity loan papers made my blood run cold. There, on a loan dated 6 months ago, was my signature as co-signer. Except I'd been deployed to Fort Carson 6 months ago, nowhere near Willow Bend or any Northline Credit Union branch. My phone buzzed a text from Sergeant Major Eva Rourke. "Hale, confirmation for tomorrow's rehearsal at 1400 hours. Your family still planning to attend?" I stared at the forged signature, then at Kurt's sleeping form, his mouth open, one hand still clutching a beer can. 7 years ago, I'd run from this place, but I wasn't that scared girl anymore. I was Specialist Morgan Hale, and I'd learned a few things about documentation, evidence, and chain of custody. "Yes, Sergeant Major," I typed back. "They'll be there." The graduation ceremony would be perfect. Kurt always performed for an audience, and this time, I'd make sure everyone was watching. The graduation day arrived bright and cloudless, the kind of Colorado morning that made Fort Valor's parade ground look like something from a recruiting poster. My squad stood in formation, dress blues crisp, brass gleaming. I could see Mom in the bleachers, wearing the yellow dress I'd sent her for Christmas. Kurt sat beside her, already working on a flask he thought was concealed in his jacket. Sergeant Major Eva Rourke moved through our ranks with her usual precision, her eyes catching mine for a fraction of a second. She'd been my instructor throughout the course, and nothing escaped her attention. Nothing. The ceremony proceeded flawlessly until the photo session. Families flooded the parade ground, cameras flashing, embraces everywhere. Mom approached tentatively, Kurt stumbling behind her. "So proud of you, honey," Mom whispered, hugging me carefully like I might break. "Get over here for a family photo," Kurt barked, grabbing my arm hard enough to wrinkle my sleeve. His breath was pure bourbon. Need to document our perfect military family. "I'll pass," I said, pulling free. "The hell you will." His voice rose, drawing stares. "After everything I've done for you, keeping a roof over your ungrateful—" "You mean the roof you're stealing by forging my signature on loan documents." The words hung in the air like unexploded ordnance. Kurt's face went purple. Mom stepped back. The families nearby pretended not to notice, but I saw phone cameras discreetly turning our way. "You little bitch," he snarled, and his hand came up fast. The slap connected with enough force to snap my head sideways. My cover flew off, landing in the dirt. The parade ground went silent. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then came the boots. Sergeant Major Rourke covered the 30 feet between us in seconds, her voice cutting through the stunned silence like a blade. "Sir, step away from my soldier. Now." Kurt, drunk and stupid, turned on her. "This is a family matter. This is assault on military property, during an official ceremony." Rourke positioned herself between us, her bearing making Kurt step back despite his size advantage. She pulled out her phone, never breaking eye contact with him. "Military police, this is Sergeant Major Rourke. I need units at the parade ground immediately. Assault on service member." "You can't," Kurt started. "Private Brooks," Rourke called to one of my squad mates filming nearby. "Ensure that video is preserved. Martinez, photograph specialist hails injury. Wagner, I need 3 witness statements, written and signed." The efficiency was beautiful. Within 90 seconds, Kurt was surrounded by a circle of witnesses, all documenting everything. 2 military police vehicles arrived at the 2-minute mark. "Specialist hail," Rourke said, her voice softer but still carrying. "Medical evaluation. Now. We need this documented." She turned to the MPs. "This man assaulted one of my soldiers in front of approximately 200 witnesses. I want every statement, every photo, every second of video." As the medic examined my face, already swelling, I heard Kurt trying to minimize what happened. "Just a family disagreement." "Sir," the MP corporal interrupted. "Multiple videos show you striking this service member. You can explain that to county sheriff's deputies, who are en route." Mom stood frozen, tears streaming. I wanted to comfort her, but Rourke caught my eye and shook her head slightly. "Documentation first, always." "Specialist," Rourke said quietly as the medic worked. "I heard you mention forged signatures. After we process this assault, you might want to discuss that with JAG. Financial fraud involving service members carries federal implications." Kurt was still blustering when the sheriff's deputies arrived. The transfer from military to civilian custody was seamless, witnessed by half the graduating class. As they cuffed him, right there on the parade ground where moments before we'd been celebrating our achievements, he looked at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over," he shouted. Sergeant Major Rourke stepped close to me, speaking low enough that only I could hear. "He's right about one thing. This isn't over. But from now on, we fight this battle properly, with documentation, witnesses, and the full weight of military and civilian law. You're not alone in this. Hale." I watched them lead Kurt away, Mom trailing behind in tears, and felt something shift inside me. 7 years of running had ended with his hand across my face. Now it was time to fight back, and I had an army behind me. The law offices of Cross and Teller occupied the second floor of a restored Victorian building in downtown Ridgeview, 40 minutes from Willow Bend. Amelia Cross sat across from me, spreading documents across her mahogany desk like she was planning a military campaign. Maybe she was. "Your sergeant major called me," she said, adjusting her reading glasses. Ava and I served together in Iraq before I went to law school. She said you have a forgery situation on top of the assault. I pulled out my phone, showing her the photographs I'd taken that first night. 6 months ago, I was at Fort Carson. Never left base during that period. I can prove it with duty rosters, but somehow, I co-signed a home equity loan for $60,000. Cross-examined the images, then pulled up the original documents from Northline Credit Union. She'd already subpoenaed them. The signature's not even close. Look at the way you write your M versus this forgery. Amateur work? There's more, I said, sliding her a folder. I've been investigating since the assault 3 days ago. Inside were printed screenshots of pawn shop receipts, photos from Mr. Alder, our old neighbor, showing Kurt selling items from our garage, and most damning pictures of my father's military decorations with sale listings on an online marketplace. My father died in Afghanistan when I was 14, I explained. His Bronze Star, Purple Heart, campaign medals, Kurt's been selling them piece by piece. The listings claim he's the veteran. Cross's expression darkened. Stolen valor on top of everything else. What about your mother? She's complicated. I showed her the bank statements. Multiple cash withdrawals, always just under the reporting limit. Mom's signature on everyone. But she says she doesn't remember most of them. I found her crying over a notepad yesterday. She'd been practicing her signature over and over, comparing it to the bank documents. Coerced signatures, Cross murmured. Pattern of financial abuse. The assault was just the visible part. She pulled up another document on her computer. Your home's deed history is interesting. Originally in your father's name, transferred to your mother after his death. Then suddenly Kurt appears as co-owner 3 years ago. Mom said it was for tax purposes. It wasn't. Cross turned her screen toward me. 2 weeks after he got on the deed, he opened the first home equity line, then another, then the loan you supposedly co-signed. The house is leveraged for more than it's worth now. My hands clenched. Can we stop him? We can do better than that. Cross started typing rapidly. The assault gives us immediate grounds for a protective order. That includes financial protection, freezing assets, preventing property transfers. But I want to go bigger. This is a pattern of elder abuse, financial exploitation, fraud, and now violent assault with military implications. She pulled out a legal pad, sketching a timeline. Here's what we do. First, emergency injunction by tomorrow morning. Judge Harrison owes me a favor. Second, we file criminal complaints for the forgery, fraud, and stolen valor. Third, we petition to unwind every transaction back 3 years. What about Mom? We separate her from Kurt, legally and financially. Restore her sole ownership of the house. Void the fraudulent loans the bank will have to eat those losses since they failed due diligence on the signatures. We might even be able to recover some of the sold items. I studied the timeline. Kurt posted bail yesterday. He's back at the house. Not for long. Cross picked up her phone. Sheriff's Department. This is Amelia Cross. I need a civil standby for document retrieval and asset inventory at... She rattled off Mom's address. Yes, we'll have the court order by 3 this afternoon. After she hung up, she looked at me directly. Your sergeant major also sent me the video from the ceremony. 17 different angles, all showing clear assault. The JAG office is preparing their own brief about assault on military personnel, between military and civilian courts. Kurt Denby is about to learn what it means to attack someone with an army behind them. How long will this take? The emergency orders days, the criminal prosecution months, full financial recovery, maybe a year. She leaned forward. But by next week, he'll be out of that house, away from your mother, and facing enough charges to keep him busy for years. Are you ready for this fight? I thought about 7 years of silence, of running away, of leaving Mom behind with him. I've been ready since the day I enlisted. I just needed the right weapons. Cross smiled, sharp and predatory. Well, Specialist Hale, you just hired yourself an entire arsenal. The coalition formed faster than I expected. Within 48 hours of my meeting with Cross, I had an army that Kurt never saw coming. Sergeant Major Rourke connected me with Captain James Mitchell from JAG, who arrived at Cross's office carrying a briefcase full of federal implications. "Assault on military personnel during an official ceremony," he said, laying out his files. "That's not just state charges, that's federal jurisdiction if we want it." Nadia Brooks, my squad mate who'd filmed the assault, had done more than just preserve evidence. "I edited together all 17 videos into a synchronized timeline," she explained, showing me her laptop. "Multiple angles, timestamp verified. But Morgan, I found something else." She pulled up social media posts from other attendees. "Kurt's been telling people you attacked him first, that he was defending himself. These posts prove otherwise." The real breakthrough came from Mr. Alder, our 70-year-old neighbor. He shuffled into Cross's office carrying 3 photo albums and a cardboard box. "Been documenting everything for 2 years, he said, setting them on the conference table. "Started when I saw Kurt selling your daddy's tools at a garage sale while your mom was at work. Felt wrong. So I started taking pictures. The albums were meticulous. Photos of Kurt loading mom's jewelry into his truck, screenshots of online listings for family heirlooms, even pictures of strange cars at the house loan sharks." Alder suspected. "This one really got me," he said, pulling out a photo dated 3 months ago. Your mom standing at the mailbox, crying over foreclosure notices. Kurt inside, visible through the window, watching TV with a beer. "Mr. Alder," Cross said slowly, "would you testify to this? Been waiting for someone to ask?" The financial investigation widened when Rourke's connection at Northline Credit Union quietly shared something interesting off the record. Initially. "So, the loan officer who processed the forged signature," Cross told me after a phone call. "He's Kurt's cousin, suddenly very interested in a plea deal if we can prove he knew the signatures were fake. Mom's contribution came unexpectedly. She showed up at Cross's office with a shoebox, hands shaking. "I've been hiding this in the car," she whispered. "Kurt doesn't know." Inside were receipts for cash deposits into an account I'd never heard of. Kurt's private gambling fund, apparently. But more importantly, there were recordings on Mom's phone. "Started recording him 6 months ago," she admitted. "After he made me sign those papers, I knew something was wrong, but I was so scared. The recordings were damning. Kurt threatening to hurt her if she didn't sign. Kurt bragging about selling my father's medals. Kurt laughing about how he'd clean out every penny before that military brat figured it out." Deputy Morales from the Sheriff's Department became an unexpected ally when he reviewed our case file. "Kurt Denby, we've had 3 domestic calls to that address in the past year. Your mom always refused to press charges, but the reports are all here." "That establishes a pattern," Captain Mitchell noted. "Makes the assault on Morgan part of ongoing domestic violence, not an isolated incident." The strategy session that Thursday night felt like a war council. Cross's conference room held myself, Rourke, Mitchell, Nadia, Cross's paralegal team, and surprisingly, Mom. "3-pronged attack," Cross announced, pointing to her whiteboard. "Criminal charges for assault, fraud, and stolen valor, civil action for financial recovery and permanent protective orders, military channel for federal charges and additional pressure. I've got base security footage of Morgan's whereabouts during the forgery dates," Rourke added. "Proves she couldn't have signed those documents." "The cousin at Northline wants immunity," Cross continued. "In exchange, he'll testify that Kurt specifically asked him to push through suspicious paperwork." "What about the stolen valor angle?" I asked. Captain Mitchell smiled grimly. "We've connected Kurt's sales of military memorabilia to 3 different fraudulent claims of service. He's been telling buyers he earned those medals. That's a federal crime." Mom spoke up for the first time. "I want to help. I want to testify. I'm done being afraid." The room went quiet. I reached over and took her hand. "The mediation hearing is Tuesday," Cross announced. "Kurt thinks it's just about the assault, a simple plea down to misdemeanor. He has no idea we're about to hit him with everything at once." "The element of surprise," Rourke observed, "is essential to any successful operation." Looking around that room, at all these people who'd rallied to fight this battle with me, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: hope. Kurt had controlled our lives through fear and isolation, but he'd made one fatal error. He'd attacked me in public, in uniform, surrounded by witnesses. Now I wasn't isolated anymore. I had an army, and we were ready for war. The Ridgeview County Courthouse at 8:15 a.m. felt like stepping into a refrigerator. Judge Harrison's emergency injunction hearing was scheduled for 8:30, and Kurt didn't even know it was happening. "Your Honor," Cross began, standing with military precision that would have made Rourke proud. "We're requesting immediate asset freeze and property preservation orders based on documented financial fraud and ongoing domestic violence." She laid out the evidence methodically. The forged signatures, the bank statements, the photos from Mr. Alder. Judge Harrison's expression grew darker with each document. "This home equity loan," he said, studying the forgery. "The signature isn't even close." "How did this get past the bank?" "The loan officer was Kurt Denby's cousin, Your Honor. He's now cooperating with authorities." Harrison signed the injunction immediately. "Asset freeze effective immediately. No property transfers, no withdrawals over $100 without court approval. Sheriff's Department is authorized to accompany Ms. Hale and her mother for property inventory. I'm also granting the emergency protective order. Mr. Denby is to vacate the residence within 24 hours. By noon, Deputy Morales and 2 other officers stood with us at Mom's house. Kurt's truck was gone. He was at his weekly poker game, according to Mom's timid confession. "We have 4 hours, Morales said, checking his watch. The search was systematic. Mom gave us permission to open everything, and what we found turned my stomach. In Kurt's locked file cabinet, which Morales had a locksmith open, we discovered the full scope of his deception. Gambling debts," Cross cataloged, photographing each document. $60,000 to someone named Valdez. That explains the rushed home equity loan. In the bedroom closet safe, which Mom hadn't known existed until we found it behind Kurt's clothes, lay the worst betrayal. My father's medals, the ones Kurt had claimed to have sold, were there along with certificates of authenticity he'd forged to sell fake replicas online. "He kept the originals," I whispered, holding Dad's bronze star. "Sold fakes to people thinking they were buying genuine military honors." "That's wire fraud," Cross said immediately. "Crossing state lines with online sales. FBI territory now." Mom stood in the doorway, pale but determined. "There's something else." She led us to the garage, to a freezer that supposedly held deer meat. Under packages of venison were manila envelopes wrapped in plastic. Inside, property deeds for 2 other houses Kurt owned under shell companies, purchased with money that should have been ours. "I found these last month," Mom admitted. "I was looking for ground beef." The document inventory took 3 hours. Cross's paralegal photographed everything while Morales maintained chain of custody. By the time Kurt's truck roared into the driveway at 4:20 p.m., we had cataloged evidence of 17 forged documents, 4 fraudulent loans totaling $200,011 stolen items sold online, 2 hidden properties, 3 false military service claims, 6 years of systematic financial abuse. Kurt exploded when he saw us. "Get the hell out of my house." "Not your house anymore," Morales said calmly, handing him the court orders. "You have until noon tomorrow to collect personal belongings. After that, you're trespassing." Kurt read the injunction, his face cycling through red to purple. "This is bullshit." "You can't." "We can," Cross interrupted. "Asset freeze is comprehensive. The poker game money in your pocket? That's frozen too. The truck can't sell it. The hidden properties on Riverside Drive and Maple Court? Yeah, we know about those too." The last part made him go white. Those properties were his escape plan. We'd learn later assets he thought were invisible. "Linda, baby, tell them this is a mistake," he pleaded, trying to push past Morales to reach Mom. Mom stepped behind me. "The only mistake was letting you near my daughter's inheritance, my husband's legacy, my life." For the first time since I'd known him, Kurt had nothing to say. "Specialist Hale's attorney will be in touch about the mediation hearing." Morales said, "I'd suggest you get a lawyer. A good one." As we left, Kurt was still standing in the driveway, holding the court papers like they might spontaneously combust. Mom rode with me, clutching a bag containing Dad's medals. "I want to restore the house," she said quietly. "Make it like it was before he ever touched it." "We will," I promised. "But first, we need to make sure he can never touch you again." Cross called that evening with an update. Kurt hired Danny Bingham as his attorney. DUI specialist. Mostly. He's already called asking for a deal. "No deals," I said immediately. "Oh," I told him that. But I did share that the FBI is now interested in the wire fraud case. Bingham went very quiet after that. The house felt different that night. Mom and I ate dinner at the kitchen table for the first time in years without fear. The locks had been changed. A locksmith handled that within 2 hours of Kurt's departure. Mom had even taken down his hunting trophies from the walls. Just the beginning, Cross had promised. And I believed her. Kurt's desperation showed itself 3 days after the asset freeze. The doorbell camera I'd installed caught him at 2:43 a.m., trying his old keys, then pounding on the door when they didn't work. "I know you're in there," he shouted. "This is my house, my property." Mom and I watched from my phone, safe in the bedroom, while Deputy Morales arrived within 12 minutes. Kurt's violation of the protective order earned him a night in county lockup and a stern warning from Judge Harrison the next morning. But jail didn't teach him anything. By Thursday, he'd escalated. The call came from KRDG News at 3:15 p.m. "Ms. Hale, this is Patricia Wong. We received a statement from Kurt Denby claiming you assaulted him and stole his property. Would you like to comment?" Cross was on the phone with the station within minutes. "My client won't be commenting, but I'll provide you with public court documents showing Mr. Denby's arrests for assault and violation of protective orders. I also have 17 videos of the actual assault, if you'd like to see who really attacked whom." Wong aired the story that night, but not the way Kurt expected. The headline read, "Local man facing federal charges after assault on military service member." They ran Nadia's synchronized video footage. Kurt looked pathetic, swinging at me in my dress blues while surrounded by witnesses. His next move was even stupider. Security footage from Mom's workplace showed Kurt approaching her car during lunch break. Audio picked up every word. "Drop the charges, Linda, or I'll burn it all down. The house. Everything. You think I won't? You know what I'm capable of." Mom, brave in a way I'd never seen, held up her phone. "I'm recording this. Kurt, keep talking." He actually did. "That military brat daughter of yours thinks she's smart. When this is over, when I get my property back, she's going to regret. Are you threatening my daughter, a United States service member, on camera while violating a protective order?" Kurt realized his mistake too late. Mom had already sent the recording to Cross and Morales before Kurt finished cursing. The stolen valor investigation provided unexpected leverage. Captain Mitchell discovered Kurt had been selling fake military memorabilia for 6 years across multiple platforms, claiming to be a decorated veteran. "We found 43 sales totaling over $30,000, Mitchell told me. "He created an entire fake service record, claims he was Special Forces, wounded in Iraq, even used your father's service number with digits changed." The U.S. Attorney's Office took interest after that. Federal wire fraud, stolen valor for profit, and now threatening a service member. Kurt's problems were multiplying exponentially. Saturday brought the most satisfying development. Cross received a call from Kurt's cousin at Northline Credit Union. "He wants to make a deal," she told me. Full testimony about Kurt's fraud scheme in exchange for immunity. Apparently, Kurt threatened him too when he found out we knew about their relationship. The mediation hearing was now 3 days away. Cross decided to accelerate our timeline. "We're adding the wire fraud and stolen valor charges to our filing," she announced. "Also, remember those hidden properties. Both were purchased with fraudulently obtained loans using your mother's forged signature. We're seizing both." Kurt made one final catastrophic error. A neighbor's security camera caught him at the house again. this time with 2 men Mom didn't recognize. They were loading tools from the garage, Dad's tools that the court had specifically frozen. Morales arrested all 3 on the spot. The 2 men immediately rolled on Kurt, admitting he'd hired them to retrieve his property before the mediation hearing. They thought it was a legitimate moving job until Morales explained the asset freeze. "Your boy's looking at serious time now," Morales told me. Theft, conspiracy, multiple violations of court orders. Judge Harrison is furious. The insurance company added another blow. Amelia received notice that they were investigating Kurt for insurance fraud. He'd filed claims for items he'd actually sold, collecting twice on Mom's jewelry and electronics. "They're prepared to testify at mediation," Cross said. "They want their money back, plus damages." Sunday night, Cross called with final preparations. Kurt's attorney filed a motion claiming mental distress and requesting a postponement. Harrison denied it. He also received notice that the FBI wants to interview Kurt about the wire fraud. Is he still planning to attend mediation? His attorney says yes, still thinks he can negotiate this down to a misdemeanor assault charge. He has no idea we're about to drop the full federal case on him. Mom and I spent that evening organizing evidence binders. Each charge had its own section, meticulously documented. The stolen valor evidence alone filled 2 binders. "I should have stopped him years ago," Mom said quietly. "You're stopping him now. That's what matters." Sergeant Major Rourke called to confirm she'd attend the mediation as a witness. "JAG is sending 2 representatives. Fort Valor is taking this very seriously. Hail, an attack on one of ours is an attack on all." As I laid out my dress uniform for the mediation hearing, I thought about Kurt's words that this wasn't over. He was right. It wasn't over. It was just beginning, and tomorrow, in that mediation room, he'd learn exactly what happened when you declared war on someone with an entire army behind them. The mediation room at Cross and Teller had been transformed into a war room. 3 projection screens lined one wall. Evidence binders covered the conference table. The court reporter sat ready. At 9 sharp, Kurt entered with his attorney, Danny Bingham, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Kurt wore his only suit, trying to project respectability. The moment he saw the room, Mom, me in dress uniform, Sergeant Major Rourke, 2 JAG officers, an insurance investigator, and Deputy Morales, his confidence cracked. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. "Sit down, Mr. Denby," Cross said coldly. "This mediation will determine whether you face 20 years or 30. Bingham paled. "Ms. Cross, we came to discuss the simple assault. Nothing about this is simple." Cross clicked her remote. The first screen lit up with Kurt striking me at the graduation ceremony, multiple angles playing simultaneously. "Let's begin with assault on military personnel during an official ceremony. Federal crime, 10 years. Click. The second screen showed forged signatures side by side with authentic ones. 17 counts of forgery, bank fraud, wire fraud crossing state lines, another 10 to 15. Click. The third screen displayed Kurt's fake military website, where he'd sold Dad's medals. Stolen valor for profit, federal crime, 5 years minimum. Kurt's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. "But wait," Cross continued, her voice surgical. "There's more." She pulled up security footage of Kurt violating the protective order, then the recording of him threatening to burn down the house, then the insurance fraud documentation, then the hidden properties purchased with stolen funds. "Your client," Cross addressed Bingham, "is looking at federal racketeering charges, RICO statute, the gambling debts to Mr. Valdez. We know he threatened your client. Your client then systematically defrauded his family to pay those debts. Pattern of criminal enterprise. This is entrapment," Kurt shouted. "No." Captain Mitchell from JAG spoke for the first time. "This is consequences. Fort Valor takes attacks on our personnel seriously. We're prepared to pursue full federal prosecution." Cross clicked again. The screen showed Kurt's cousin from Northline Credit Union in a deposition video. Kurt told me to push the loans through, said Morgan was deployed and couldn't sign in person, but it was fine because she'd approved it. I knew something was wrong, but he's family. Your own cousin, Cross noted, who's agreed to testify against you for immunity. The insurance investigator spoke up. Mr. Denby filed claims totaling $45,000 for items he'd already sold. We have receipts, photos, and buyer testimonies. That's insurance fraud across multiple incidents. Deputy Morales added his piece. 3 protective order violations in 1 week, theft of frozen assets, conspiracy to violate court orders. The sheriff's department is recommending maximum charges. Kurt turned to his attorney, whispering frantically. Bingham looked sick. Here's what happens now, Cross announced. She hit the remote one more time, displaying a timeline. In 10 minutes, if we don't have a signed agreement, Deputy Morales arrests you for the protective order violations, the theft, and the threats. The FBI agents waiting in our lobby take you for federal processing on the wire fraud and stolen valor charges. You'll be held without bail as a flight risk and danger to witnesses. Or, Bingham asked weakly, or your client signs this. Cross slid a document across the table. Full confession to all charges. Guilty pleas across the board. Surrender of all assets obtained through fraud, both hidden properties, all bank accounts, everything. Full restitution to Mrs. Denby and Ms. Hale, permanent restraining order, and he serves 15 years instead of 30. Kurt exploded. I'm not signing shit. This is my money. My house I earned. You earned nothing. Mom's voice cut through his rage. Everyone turned. She was standing, trembling but resolute. You stole from my husband's legacy. You stole my daughter's inheritance. You beat us, terrorized us, and bled us dry for your gambling debts. She pulled out a paper from her purse. This is from my attorney. Divorce papers, already filed. And this, another paper. Power of attorney I signed this morning, giving Morgan full authority over my financial recovery. Every penny you stole, we're taking back. Kurt lunged toward her, but Morales and Rourke moved faster. Kurt found himself face down on the conference table, arms pinned. That's assault in front of law enforcement, Morales said, cuffing him. Add another charge. Wait, Bingham stood. We'll take the deal. Kurt, for God's sake, take the deal. But Kurt's rage had consumed his reasoning. Go to hell, all of you, when I get out. When you get out, you'll be 70 years old if you're lucky. Cross interrupted. Deputy Morales, he's all yours. Agents. She called toward the door. 2 FBI agents entered. Mr. Denby has declined our offer. As they led Kurt away, he was screaming about lawyers, appeals, how he'd destroy us all. The court reporter captured every threat, every word that would be used against him at trial. The room fell silent after he was gone. Then Mom collapsed into her chair, sobbing with relief. It's over, she whispered. The criminal part. Yes. Cross confirmed. The financial recovery starts now. With his confession on video and these charges, recovering the assets will be straightforward. The house will be restored to you free and clear. The hidden properties will be liquidated to pay restitution. Sergeant Major Rourke stood, offering me a rare smile. Well done, specialist. You fought this battle with intelligence and discipline. As everyone filed out, I sat with Mom in the empty conference room. Through the window, we could see Kurt being loaded into a federal transport van. His suit rumpled, his face twisted with impotent rage. Your father would be proud, Mom said softly. I thought about Dad's bronze star, now safe in Mom's purse, about the house that would be ours again, about the man who'd terrorized us for 15 years, finally facing justice. We won, I said simply. And we had, not with fists or fury, but with evidence, allies, and the cold precision of justice properly served. 3 weeks after Kurt's arrest, the house on Maple Street looked different. Fresh paint covered the walls. The windows Mom had been forbidden to open were thrown wide, letting in Colorado sunshine. In what used to be Kurt's office, my old bedroom, we'd created a small memorial space for Dad. Sergeant Major Rourke stood beside me as we carefully arranged the recovered medals in a shadow box. Mom had insisted on this small ceremony. Just the three of us and Mr. Alder, who'd brought fresh flowers from his garden. "Your father's Bronze Star," Rourke said, positioning it precisely. Purple Heart, Afghanistan Campaign Medal. "These represent service, sacrifice, honor, everything Kurt Denby could never understand." The doorbell rang. Cross entered with a manila folder and a satisfied expression. "Final paperwork," she announced. "The federal prosecutor just called. Kurt took a plea deal this morning, 18 years federal. No possibility of parole for 15. He'll be 72 when he gets out, if he lives that long." "What about the financial recovery?" Mom asked. "Both hidden properties sold at auction yesterday. Combined with the frozen accounts and insurance fraud recovery, you're getting $340,000. The house is yours free and clear. All fraudulent loans voided. Northline Credit Union is eating those losses, serves them right for not verifying signatures." Cross handed Mom another document. "The divorce was finalized this morning. Fastest I've ever seen judge expedited everything given the criminal circumstances. You're officially Linda Hale again." Mom smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in years. "I'm taking my husband's name back. Should never have changed it." Mr. Alder raised his coffee mug. "To the Hale family. David would be damn proud of you both." That evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Mom finally spoke about the years of silence. "I was so afraid," she admitted, "not just of him hitting me, but of being alone, of admitting I'd let a monster into our lives. When you left for the military, part of me was relieved at least you were safe. Why didn't you leave? He said he'd find us, said he'd burn everything down before letting us go. And I believed him." She touched the fading bruise under her eye, the last mark Kurt would ever leave on her. "But when he hit you in front of all those people, in your uniform, something snapped. My fear turned into rage. You were brave when it counted." "No," she corrected. "You were brave. You gathered the evidence, built the case, brought in the allies. You fought like a soldier, strategic, disciplined, relentless." I thought about Kurt's words at the graduation. This isn't over. He'd been right, but not in the way he'd imagined. "You know what I keep thinking about," I said. "That moment in the mediation room when he realized we'd documented everything. The look on his face when he understood that every threat, every theft, every lie had been recorded, witnessed, preserved." Mom nodded. "He thought we were weak, thought fear would keep us silent forever. Instead, we used his own weapons against him. Legal documents, financial records, witness testimonies." I gestured to the restored house, the recovered assets, the peace we'd finally found. Where he raised his fist, I raised paperwork. Where he screamed threats, I let evidence speak. And when he thought he'd won, the handcuffs did the talking. Rourke's words echoed in my memory. "You fought this battle with intelligence and discipline." That's what military training had given me, not just physical strength, but the ability to think tactically, to document meticulously, to build alliances strategically. As night fell over Willow Bend, I stood in my old bedroom, now restored. The shadow box with Dad's medals hung on the wall where Kurt's hunting trophies had been. Below it sat a photo Dad in his army dress uniform, Mom in her wedding dress, and me as a baby between them. Kurt was gone, buried under federal charges he'd never escape. Mom was free, finally able to heal. The house was ours again, cleansed of his presence. The war was over. I looked at my reflection in Dad's Bronze Star and saw not the scared girl who'd fled this town 7 years ago, but a soldier who'd returned to fight the battle that needed fighting, not with violence, but with justice. Not alone, but with an army of allies who'd stood beside me when it mattered most. Where Kurt had raised his hand to strike, I'd raised the law to strike back, and I'd won. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it resonated with those who faced their own battles against abuse and injustice. Where are you listening from today? I'd love to connect with listeners from around the world in the comments below. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share your thoughts. Has anyone else had to stand up to a family bully? How did you find your courage? Your stories matter too, and this community is here to support each other.